Hi, this is Sean Toole, sound check. Anybody hear me out there?
I hear you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Court Reporter, quick sound check. Can you hear me?
You're coming through very well.
Great, thank you. Okay, and we are also live on YouTube. If we could go on the record, please.
You're on the record, Your Honor.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Maryland Public Service Commission's public comment hearing in case number 9671. It's approximately 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, February 8th, 2022. My name is Kristen Lawrence. I'm a public utility law judge at the Commission. Case number 9671 is the application of Maryland Water Service, Inc. for authority to revise and consolidate rates for water and sewage disposal services. The application was filed on September 30, 2021. The rates Maryland Water Service is proposing, would increase its Maryland-based distribution rates by $1,990,022, which would represent a 108% increase in water revenue and an 87.87% increase in sewer revenues. The company is also requesting to consolidate its rates into uniform rate schedules for each customer class across all of its systems. The company has the Pinto system in Cumberland, Maryland, the Highland Estate system also in Cumberland, Maryland, the Province's Water Treatment Plant in Severn, Maryland, the Green Ridge system in Bel Air, and the Lakeside Vista Water system in Joppa. The proposed rate increase would result in a bill increase to the average Pinto water customer of 84%. The proposed rate increase would result in a bill increase to the average Highland Estates water customer of 68%. The proposed rate increase would result in a bill increase to the average Province's customer of 255%. The proposed rate increase would result in a bill increase to the average Green Ridge customer of 30%. And the proposed rate increase would result in a bill increase to the average Lake Vista customer of 30%. Parties to this case include the company, the Maryland Office of People's Counsel, or OPC, and the Commission's technical staff. This is the second and final public hearing in this matter to receive comments on the application. Written comments can also be filed and submitted electronically or by first-class mail on or before February 25th, 2022. At this point, I'm going to share my screen and show everyone how that's done. So this is the Commission's website, psc.state.md.us. And if you are in the middle of the page, you'll see a box that says Tools, and then 2 items down, Make a Public Comment. So that's where you would go to make a public comment. There's a one-time registration. Comments can also be mailed to Andrew S. Johnston, Executive Secretary, Maryland Public Service Commission, William Donald Schaefer Tower, 6 St. Paul Street, 16th floor, Baltimore, Maryland, 21212. Oh, I'm sorry, 21202, if they are mailed. And then while we're on the website, let me show you what might be referred to as the docket in the case. If you come over to the left, you'll see Case Search. And if you click on the case or docket number, and then you were to type in 9671 and then hit go, it'll take you to the case jacket or the docket in this case, and you can see everything that's filed. First thing being filed, of course, would be the application. And if you click on the one, you can download a PDF of the application and everything that was filed with it. So we will begin tonight with a brief presentation by Maryland Water Service, followed by brief statements from the Maryland Office of People's Counsel, and then the staff of the Public Service Commission. This is a contested proceeding that's under my consideration, so I can't answer questions this evening. My role tonight is to listen to your views. It's also being recorded by a court reporter. There'll be a transcript of the evening's hearing so that there's a public record. Input from customers is a very important part of this proceeding, and I appreciate the time that you've all taken to be here tonight. So as I said, we'll start with Maryland Water Service Counsel for Maryland Water Service.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you to everyone for joining tonight, either on WebEx or YouTube. My name is David Bugelmans. I'm an attorney with the law firm Gordon Feinblatt, and I represent Maryland Water Service in this case. I have with me tonight Mr. Bryce Mendenhall, who's the president of Mid-Atlantic Operations for the company. In addition, we are joined by Mr. Anthony Gray, a financial planning and analysis manager for the company. In addition, it's my understanding we have some staff, some operational staff for the individual companies on as well tonight. Mr. Mendenhall and myself are taking notes tonight. If you have any questions about this case or the company's service in general, we'll write them down, submit a response in writing to the Public Service Commission in about 5 business days. The response will be public and available in the docket of this case, which is case number 9671. You can access that in the way that Judge Lawrence showed you just a few moments ago. You can also find in there our responses to questions from the first public comment hearing held in this case. Mr. Mendenhall will now provide a brief overview of the company's application and key projects included within the request. Again, thank you very much for joining tonight and for your participation, and we look forward to hearing your comments.
Thank you, David. Good evening to everyone. My name is Bryce Mendenhall, as David alluded to. I'm employed by Krosch and serve as the president for the Mid-Atlantic Business Unit. In this position, I oversee the operation of Maryland Water Service, in addition to water and wastewater facilities in Virginia, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. As David said, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this evening's proceedings, and we certainly look forward to hearing your comments and being able to respond back as well. So first, I'd like to take a few minutes to discuss the reason the company has requested a rate increase from Maryland Public Service Commission, including some essential projects completed that are within the request as filed. Historically, the company filed its most recent application for an increase in its base rates for the Pinto and Highland Estate systems on June 30th of 2016. The Green Ridge and Vista systems' most recent rate case was filed March 31st of 2014. And finally, Providence's most recent case was filed on December 23rd of 2007. The company certainly recognizes that the COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in significant economic hardship for our customers. That said, the company also recognizes the importance of water and wastewater services during a public health emergency and appreciates the obligations that come with delivering these necessary resources to our customers. However, under present rates, the company is unable to meet its operating costs and earn a reasonable return on its investments. To continue to provide these essential services, the company must have rates that allow it to provide safe, adequate, and reliable service. The company cannot defer capital investments. We must continue to fairly compensate our employees and ensure our financial stability. In this application, the company has proposed consolidating rates for all systems, meaning that all water systems will have the same set of rates. The benefit of rate consolidation is that the company would be able to spread capital costs over a larger base of customers rather than smaller individual systems. Ultimately, consolidation is recognized as being a benefit to utility customers and helps to minimize rate increases in future proceedings. Key capital projects that I'd like to mention to you. Certainly like to discuss these as they're also entered into the rate case filing. In the Green Ridge system, we performed a project that was driven by safety concerns and water capacity enhancements. 2 underground treatment facilities were replaced with above ground modern facilities for health and safety requirements and to protect water quality and our operational team. In the Pinto system, we performed a wastewater clean and televise project. This project consisted of cleaning and televising approximately 60,000 linear feet of sewer collection mains in the system. And the goal of the project was to identify deficiencies in the piping network to pinpoint exact locations for needed repairs. Once again, in the Pinto system, we also did a water main replacement project. And this was initiated to replace several water mains that were determined to be improperly rated for water system working pressures. In addition to increasing water quality and quantity, the project replaced several inoperable system valves and completed an internal looped line to reduce water outages and increase water quality. In the province's system, we completed a project that was a chemical feed upgrade enhancement. This project replaced antiquated and outdated treatment components to increase reliability, capability, and water quality. In addition to replacing the older components, the project was also allowed for technical automation of treatment at the water plant. In the Pinto system, once again, we performed an aeration and electrical upgrade project, whereby we replaced 7 existing lagoon aerators that support our wastewater treatment operations. As part of the project, multiple electrical components were replaced and upgraded to promote treatment reliability. In the Vista water system, the company engaged a contractor to rehabilitate the interior of a large hydropneumatic water storage tank. Based on data received from the tank's last inspection, the recommendation was made to completely renovate the tank's interior. This project not only maximizes the lifespan of the tank, but protects the quality of the water held within. And then finally, in Pinto again, we completed a sewer capital improvement project. The project was driven by the earlier clean and televised project and targeted those areas of deficiency that were noted during that time. The project will have a positive environmental impact through the reduction of sanitary overflows experienced during heavy precipitation events. Those are just a few of the projects that we completed, the major projects we completed. But in conclusion, I want to thank each of you once again for attending tonight. We look forward to your comments and look forward to the opportunity to respond to your comments as well. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Biegelmans, that's all from Maryland Water Service, correct?
Correct, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Counsel for Office of People's Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Nikki Wiggins. I am here on behalf of Maryland Office of People's Counsel. Also with me is Mr. Fred Hoover for the Office of People's Counsel. I'll keep my comments brief. I see there's quite a number of members of the public here to make their voices heard. OPC's role in this proceeding is to represent as a class Maryland's residential ratepayers. We have examined the company's application. We have retained experts to examine the application and make recommendations as to the amount of revenue that the company requires to operate its business, and a number of other things, including rate design. We have filed testimony in this case. It can be found on the website, the PSC website, which Judge Lawrence pointed out to you earlier, making recommendations to reduce the level of revenue required in this case, as well as to structure rates in such a way that there won't be large rate increases for any class of customers in this proceeding. We thank you all for coming out. This is a very vital portion of the rate making process for your voices to be heard. I am here for questions if there are any, and I appreciate all those who have reached out to me as well. My contact information can be found in the case jacket that Judge Lawrence pointed out to you earlier, if anyone wants to follow up with me after this hearing.
Thank you. Counsel for staff.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good evening. My name is Catherine Wyardi. I'm Assistant Staff Attorney for the Maryland Public Service Commission. Staff's role in this case is to assist the Commission in complying with its statutory duty to complete the record. Staff has reviewed Maryland Water Services application for authority to revise and consolidate rates, charges, and tariff proposals for water and sewage disposal services. The purpose of staff's testimony in this case is to ensure that Maryland Water Services rates are just and reasonable and in the public interest under the Public Utility Article, Section 4-101, and that the application follows the dictates of the Public Utility Article, Section 4-307, for possible consolidation of rates. Staff filed direct testimony, which is staff's initial response to Maryland Water Services application. Staff's made recommendations for adjustments to the company's revenue requirement, rate return, and rate design. Staff is recommending a return on equity of a 9.7. Staff's recommended rates can be found in Ms. Paige Shaw's direct testimony on page 26 under Table 11. And Ms. Shaw's direct testimony can be accessed on the Commission website that was shown to you earlier, under the case docket, case number 9671. I look forward to hearing public input on this matter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, we're going to take public comments. When I say your name, please unmute yourself, state your name for the record, and also spell it for the court reporter. Hang on a second. Let me make sure everyone's muted to start with. Okay. James Bryant or Cassandra Bryant?
Hi, right here.
Hi, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Your Honor. It's Cassandra Bryant. That's Cassandra, Bryant, Bryant.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, and I didn't, I should have said, please try to limit your comments to about 4 minutes because we do have a lot of people that want to speak tonight. Thank you. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to speak again. I'm a homeowner in the Green Ridge neighborhood in Harford County, and I did speak at the last public hearing in opposition to our water company increasing our rates up to 30%. So tonight I'd like to add and expand upon some of the points I made at the last hearing. So first off, in regards to the point I made that I only found out about this hearing through an email from the water company stating the date and time of the public hearings. I would like to again re-emphasize that I do not feel the water company is being as forthright as they could be with their customers. I want to ask if the water company feels it has done their due diligence to inform their customers of the potential rate increases. After the first hearing, I took time to go out and speak with other citizens in my neighborhood. These are people who live in Green Ridge, and every single person had the same two sentiments to say to me. Number one, they had no idea that there was a potential 30% increase to our rates, or that there were opportunities to speak at a public hearing. And number two, everyone unanimously emphasized that they are dissatisfied with the quality of the water provided by our water company. I would like to add that I'm grateful that our water company provides us with safe drinking water. However, we do have very hard water, and the water has extremely high rates of calcium mineral deposits, which are abrasive and corrosive. I'm stating this based on facts because the quality was so questionable that 3 years ago, I actually paid to have our water tested by an independent third-party lab to ensure its safety. The water causes itching and drying of your skin, leaves chalky residue stains all over surfaces, and rapidly eats away at household appliances. This is a very common complaint in our neighborhood if you ask the other citizens about the water in Green Ridge. A new neighbor moved in recently over the holidays, and the way she first introduced herself to me was she knocked on my door to ask me about the water and if it was safe to drink because she was so concerned with its quality. If I was the water company, that is not something I would want new customers moving into the neighborhood to question right from the start. I say all of this to reiterate another point that I made. The water company wants to provide a fair rate of return for its shareholders, but the concept of investing inherently does not guarantee anything to the investor. I feel the main focus should be primarily on providing your customers with water that is not only safe to drink, but a good quality that isn't so corrosive. Customers should not have to pay such a significant increase to go into shareholders' pockets. Again, and to re-emphasize my final point, this is made all the more difficult when we have no freedom of choice in our water company or any other options to use in the neighborhood. This concludes my comments. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Joseph Beach.
Thank you. Yes, Joseph Beach, Joseph, Beach, Beach.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Your Honor, and thank you for this opportunity to provide comments on case number 9671. First, I want to state that the comments I'm providing tonight are in a private capacity as a citizen of Anne Arundel County and an MWS customer and reflect only my opinions. I also want to thank and recognize the efforts of the staff of the Public Service Commission and the Office of People's Counsel who have contributed their expertise to provide a more just and reasonable alternative than that requested by MWS. The rate consolidation plan requested by MWS and the resulting rate increases and bill increases for all their customers, especially their customers in the province's community, are clearly unreasonable. Also, as Public Service Commission staff, Ms. Kaya Kendall, forgive me if I mispronounce that, and Ms. Shaw have pointed out in their expert testimony, the request is not either justified by the cost of service study or financial reports submitted by MWS. As the PSC staff have pointed out in their analysis, because the cost characteristics are different for each of these non-contiguous systems that serve different communities throughout Maryland, a rate consolidation would be unreasonable and result in unjustified cross-system subsidies and excessive rate and bill increases. Ms. Shaw noted in her testimony that her research yielded, quote, little to no previous cases where the proposed rate increase would exceed a 100% rate hike, unquote. In this case, the water usage rate increase proposed by MWS across these four different systems would exceed 212%, 129%, 100%, and in the provinces, 647%. An average water usage charge increase across these systems of over 272%. The resulting customer bill increases are, of course, also unreasonable. While the average bill for provinces customers would increase 255%, the bill increases for larger households, like my own, will be much greater. I have calculated that my bill will increase by over 373%. As customers, we don't want our rates or bills to increase ever, but I recognize the costs and operational challenges of reliably providing safe drinking water and that reasonable rate increases are sometimes necessary. I believe that the rates, the unconsolidated rate structure, and the 5-year phase-in recommended by PSC staff economist Ms. Shaw is much more reasonable than that requested by MWS. However, I want to point out that even under this more reasonable alternative, water bills in my community would increase by over 20% for 5 years. The provinces is a middle income community, and many of our residents are senior citizens who live on fixed incomes and young struggling families. For this reason, I would recommend a 10-year or longer phase-in period. I do think the proposal to go to monthly billing is excellent and will help the affected families plan and budget much better than under a quarterly bill. Just as sort of an aside, I think the best solution for provinces customers is for Anne Arundel County to acquire this system, an extension constructed to connect the provinces to the county system, which is a much more reasonable rate at $2.83 per 1,000 gallons as opposed to $11.73 per 1,000 gallons proposed by MWS. Thank you for allowing me to provide these comments.
Thank you. Jennifer Matthews.
Thank you so much. So my name is Jennifer Matthews, Jenniffer Matthews, and I live in the provinces. I have extensive remarks, so if there's opportunity for me to come back at the end, I would greatly appreciate it. I'm going to start with my consolidated opening statement. I've lived in the provinces for approximately 7 years, and the proposed rate increase of 255% is absolutely preposterous. I actually took the time to read the entire 292-page proposal. And the filing contains errors, it contains some mistruths, and it actually shows signs of mismanagement. It's actually ludicrous to seek a rate increase of this magnitude and to raise the rates like this and leave the current management in place. It just doesn't make sense because that's how we got into this situation. So I did a tremendous amount of research in the short time that we were given in notice to these two public testimonies. So on the first point, I'd like to begin with the filing on page 2, right inside the cover, where MWS states that they are entitled to the rate increase per Maryland Code 4- Public Utilities Code 4-101. The Maryland Code does not use the word entitled as MWS uses in their filing. 404-101 actually reads, and I pulled it from the law, in this title, just and reasonable means that the rate does not violate any provision of this article. Number one. Number two, fully considers and is consistent with the public good. And number three, except for rates of a common carrier, will result in an operating income to the public service company that yields after reasonable deduction or depreciation and other necessary and proper expenses, and reserves a reasonable return on the fair value of the public service company's property used and useful in providing service to the company. Providing service to the public. Again, nowhere in this article does it state that a utility is entitled to a rate increase, and it definitely does not say that a 255% rate increase is just and reasonable. If MWS wants to assume that Article 4-101 entitles them to a rate increase, then me and every resident of the provinces wants to assume that we are entitled to an increase that is capped at a cumulative maximum of, let's say, 30% over the next 5 years, because that amount is a just and reasonable rate under the same article, Public Utilities 4-101. My second point, the Maryland Public Utilities specifies prohibitions when it comes to raising rates. My research reveals that MWS 255% rate increase for the provinces is actually in violation of Title IV, Section 4-503 on rate discrimination. Title IV, which says rate regulation, Subtitle 5, prohibitions, Section 4-503, rate discrimination, reads in letter B, for any service rendered or commodity furnished, a public service company may not directly or indirectly by any means, including special rates, rebates, drawbacks, or refunds. Number three, discriminate against a person, locality, or particular class of service. Or number four, give undue reasonable preference or cause undue or reasonable prejudice to a person, locality, or particular class of service. In this instance, MWS is engaging in locality discrimination by imposing a 255% rate increase against the provinces. And for this, I actually pulled the census tracts for the areas involved. And I hope I have them up on my screen. I don't, but I can submit them. So for the two areas in Allegheny County, Pinto and the second one, when I pulled the census tract, not the county, but the actual census tract where those two service areas are located, they are 90+% Caucasian. When I pulled the census tract in Harford County, where that location is located, it is also 90% Caucasian. When I pulled the census tract, and I'm using 2020 census data, there are two census tracts that run through the provinces. One on the, I guess, western part of the provinces and one on the eastern part of the provinces. For those two census tracts, the western part of the provinces, and I will gladly submit this to Madam Law Judge, the western census tract is 40% Caucasian, and then it breaks down African American, Hispanic, Asian, other, and the eastern side, which goes as far as like Meade Village, for those of you who are familiar with the area, that census tract is 30% Caucasian, and then it breaks down African American, Latino, and Asian. So I am stating that under section 4-503, there is locality discrimination in this 255% increase on the provinces compared to the other areas that MWS is increasing the rates on.
Ms.
Point number
Matthews?
three. Yes.
Yes, we'll come back to you at the end. We want to give everyone a chance to speak. So we're
Okay.
limiting people to 5 minutes, but I'll come back to you at the end for
Okay.
additional
Can I
comments.
also submit, if I don't get back, submit this as written testimony?
Well, okay, first of all, it's not testimony, it's comments, but absolutely, you can submit anything in writing. If you need me to go over that again, I can, but you can do it electronically on the website or you can mail it in.
Okay. I did my homework because I am not happy.
Thank you for your comments. And again, at the end, I'll come back to you once everybody else has had a chance. All
Thank
right?
you.
Thank you. Ken Pfister?
Yes. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to provide my comments. My name is Ken Pfister, spelled Kenpfister. I live in the Pinto area in Western Maryland and Cumberland, Maryland, Allegheny County. I receive the water from Utilities Inc. in the Glen Oak Pinto area region where the water service is provided. I've seen steady rate increases in my bill. And when I heard of the increase, when I was watching the presentation 2 weeks ago, I couldn't comment, but I wanted to provide a voice tonight in opposition to 84% increase in my area where I live. I've noticed that there have been several, I notified several members of my community to let them know of this public hearing that was going on. Most people in my area are senior citizens, as reflected earlier, on fixed incomes. I only found out about this because I got on the text alert for my bill that was due last month. I got a link to the YouTube page, but in my bill, no notification. Maryland MWS is really good about notifying whenever during the summer, whenever pipes and so forth are cleaned or flushed, but there was no such automated contact regarding this hearing. In any event, as I mentioned, I live in an area where mostly senior citizens are. They struggle with continued cost. And with this increase, 84% where I live, my water will become more expensive than electricity. As I said, most people, I've lived in this area for about 15 years. There was a time when I believe it was between 2009 and 2011 where customers in my area were unable to pay their bills. And there was whenever the deficit occurred, everyone was responsible for paying bills or making up the deficit that occurred for those customers. So I had my regular bill, plus there was also a process in which I was also paying for other people who couldn't pay their bill. I do respect people having hardship, but that occurred. And that leads me to my point. If there's a deficit, as stated by other members in different communities, if there's a deficit and there's an issue where people can't pay their bill, I don't have an option. This is where I live. I can't pick up and select another water source. And then hearing comments from a couple weeks ago, $11 per 1,000 gallons versus counties that are around $2 to $3 per 1,000 gallons. The gentleman, Mr. Mendenhall, talked about the effects of COVID. And yes, everyone's affected by COVID and coming out of it, but the timing is terrible. And it just seems like to me that it looks like they're putting pricing together, across the board for all the communities that we're all affected and live in. And it seems like the shareholder is the priority. As I mentioned, with the proposed increase, it would be much worse for customers who can't afford to be able to pay their bill. And if that's the case, how will that be handled? And who will pay for these customers? And, water is an essential utility that everyone needs. And as I said, I don't have a choice for water, but I just think this is going to be a real challenge for the majority of people in the area where I live. Thank you for allowing me to comment.
Thank you. Michael Eretz?
Hello. This is Michael Arts. My name is spelled Michael. Last name is Aretz. Thank you for the opportunity to comment, and I appreciate other people's comments, and I don't want to be redundant, but I just want to highlight a couple of things. One of them is the incidentally, I live in the provinces, so I'm getting socked with that 255% increase. And I think the general theme is this creates an undue hardship on my neighbors who are also customers in the. I pulled out a water bill from 2003, 19 years ago. It was $47.89 for the quarter. My more recent bill was like $64. So I calculated, but it was actually $13.20 per quarter more over 19 years, and that's 28%. So that's something to compare with a 255% increase all of a sudden. That shows you how dramatic it is. And, it is a rate shock, or it would be a rate shock if it goes through. And I know MDS wants to avoid rate shock. So hopefully we can do something else about this situation. I don't know if it's possible that, we've got this factor about profit and attracting investing and all that. And maybe if we're going to be the customers, I think we're the people that need to benefit from this system. So maybe if worse comes to worse, maybe we could look at having the customers also be the investors. And that way we get the total benefit of the system. And I was concerned that, being a public utility, and we have to say, okay, well, you're the water company, and it's not like I'm going to run over to the grocery store and start buying or get 5-gallon jugs of water delivered as a competition. That's not going to fly. So I like the one gentleman's idea that, well, maybe the county should take over because they can do it for $2.83 a gallon on average. So maybe there's something creative we can do that everybody comes out okay. But just simply raising it 255% is not it's just not good, to put it simply. So I appreciate the powers to be to temper that down some way. Thank you for letting me comment.
Thank you. Ryan Dewey.
I am here. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
My name is Ryan Dewey, Ryandewy. I'm a resident of the provinces in Severn. This rate hike of 255% is egregious and should require more transparency than what Maryland Water Services has offered. As many others have said so far, residents receive next to no notification, even though it looks like Maryland Water Services technically fulfilled their obligation to regulators. They printed a notice in the local newspaper. It's 2022. No one gets the newspaper anymore. They posted on their Facebook account that only has 9 people following it. And the provinces alone has somewhere around 900 houses, not residents, but houses. I would suggest that MWS purposely chose the least effective forms of communication to notify the people that would be affected. The county or local officials should evaluate what they require in the situation also, so companies like MWS can't take advantage of the residents. Korix is a Canada-based utilities company that owns MWS. I want MWS to publicly clarify what their relationship with Korix is, because a short Google search will show you that Korix recently financed a $33 million biomass plant in British Columbia that serves a college campus and private residential community, and Korix owns and operates that facility. The campus negotiated their rates, and the residential community has rates regulated by the British Columbia Utilities Commission. Could that change the rate of return for Korix and create an overall deficit that's included in NWS's financials? Korix also settled privately on a $39.5 million lawsuit in Canada for a plant that never fully worked. They also owe the city of Bastrop, Texas, money for something regarding wastewater infrastructure. This is MWS's parent company. A progressive, reasonable increase that competes with or is reasonably relative to the county water price is more than an acceptable proposal. And I don't think anybody in our community would disagree with that. The 255% rate hike would only cause residents of our neighborhood to petition to switch to a county water source, and then you're down an entire community's worth of revenue, which doesn't help your company. This neighborhood is full of military families, DoD contractors, elderly residents, fixed income families, and you want a 255% raise. What you are asking for is unacceptable, unethical, and unpatriotic. That's all.
Thank you. Charlotte Green.
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me? So
Yes, I can hear you. Say and spell your name, please.
yeah, so my legal name is Charlotte, Charlotte, last name Gruen, Gruen. So I'm a homeowner in the province's community, and I have two main points tonight. And very glad to hear my neighbors, Aaron Brockovich is out here doing their research, and I just really appreciate that. So the first point that I want to make tonight is that the price increase proposed by Maryland's Water Services is way too high and also baffling. And the second point is that the provinces are a community of hardworking families who are not able to bear the burden of the inefficient business practices of Maryland Water Services. On the first point, our water bill in the provinces is proposed to increase by 225% or 255 to $11.37 per 1,000 gallons. As has been noted, the rest of Anne Arundel County and nearby Howard County are paying $2.83 and $2.87 in comparison to that $11.37 respectively. This is Maryland, not California. We have plenty of water here, and there's no reason that providing us water should cost so much. As evidenced by the water provided by our fellow Marylanders across this and other counties. Maryland Water Services claims that they are consolidating fees and providing upgrades, but this cannot possibly account for such a crazy increase. And all the more I ask you, why should we agree to pay for upgrades and additions that we never agreed to pay for in the first place? And as Ryan mentioned, might not even be our upgrades that we're paying for. On top of all that, the upgrades listed for the province's community, which is the community bearing the brunt of the price increase, received a chemical feed upgrade project costing $154,000, while other communities whose prices are not going up as high of a percentage received projects costing millions of dollars. I also add that the water tastes chemically, so this upgrade is a downgrade if you ask me. As Jennifer Matthews said earlier, we are paying more cost for less quality water, and the company is not firing off the leadership. How is that fair? And nothing personal here. The second point that I want to make, and I think is more important, is the provinces is being shackled to a price hike that reeks of monopoly. We are being presented no choice to shop around for more affordable water company, and it's not like we have a choice to use water or just be filthy and thirsty all the time. The provinces are a community of around 900 families, many of whom work at nearby Fort Meade. And if you drove through this neighborhood, you wouldn't see Teslas and BMWs in the driveway. My neighbors work blue-collar jobs, landscaping, or healthcare. Some of them are already in bed because they have early morning shifts. And most of them, I'm happy to speak on their behalf because they, don't have the luxury to join these meetings and things like that. For them, an increase of $60 per month in water bill would be devastating. I also think it's shiesty that I don't know if that's the legal term, shiesty, that the proposed move to a monthly water bill instead of a quarterly is a sort of move to hide these increases. Although Joseph Beach mentioned the monthly billing itself is not the issue, it's the increase in billing. I'll leave you with this. The proposed rate increase is not just dollars on a balance sheet. These are people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Tommy Krosch?
All right, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Test.
Yeah, I can hear you. You're actually a little loud, so you can.
How about that? Any better?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name's Tommy Krosch, TommyKrisch. I'm a resident of the provinces, and I'm in opposition to the rate increases as they are currently proposed. I'm going to try to not reiterate too much of what my fellow residents have said and hit some areas people haven't talked about. Just to restate from item 1 of the docket, the current earned rate of return is negative 1.87%, and the proposed fair rate of return is 7.73%. I find the entire concept of trying to make a rate of return of almost 8% on a utility that has no competition is despicable. To quote page 4 of docket number, the document 30 from the Office of Staff Counsel, Bluefield and Hope established the standard, among others, that a utility's return should provide it the opportunity to earn a return similar to enterprises of comparable risk. I find running a water utility in an area where your customers have no choice of where they get water from extremely low risk. And I don't think 7.73% reflects that at all. And the only other point I will make is I would like to reiterate a shout out to Joseph Beach. He is the only reason I heard about this entire fiasco. I did read MWS's response in the docket. I believe it was item number 29, certificates of publication. Exhibits A, they have exhibits A, B, C, D, E, F, and G on the ways they tried to reach us to let us know. And I'm only one person, but I didn't get a single one of those. They didn't reach me. Their bills reached me, but none of those reached me. I would also like to point out in item 1 of the docket in the original application, it is an extremely long document. It's very hard to read, but even in the brief amount of time I was reading it, I found at least one error in an important financial figure. On page 92, there's a comparison between the financial numbers for the consolidated versus non-consolidated. And in the middle column, the relative rate increase is the same percentage in both cases for the provinces, which is not true. And to close, I would like to point out that a lot of people have been saying the 255% number for the provinces in specific, which in itself sounds bad. It sounds really bad. But I would like to point out that that is probably the best looking number that could be come up that is accurate. If you actually look at the rates, the current rates for the provinces is $1.57 for 1,000 gallons of water. The county is currently $2.83 for 1,000 gallons of water, and the proposed number for the provinces is $11.73 per 1,000 gallons, which is a 7.4 times increase on the rate alone. That's not even talking about the base monthly cost. So in conclusion, I don't really trust Maryland Water Service. I don't think they wanted us to find out about this hearing. And I don't think seeking a rate of return of 7.7% on a completely captive audience is even slightly fair. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tony Knight?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm the community about flyers to our community to try to get the message out because we were given about 5 days notice for this hearing. We hit about 400 homes, so if you got a blue flyer on your front door, that was us. I have a prepared statement I'd like to read. My name is Anthony Knight, ANTHONYKNIGHT. I live on Bastille Place. I've been a member of the province's community for over 12 years. I'm here today to register my concerns about the proposed rate increase by Maryland Water Service. My intention is to demonstrate that the basis for which Maryland Water Service uses to justify its rate consolidation is both specious and against the public interest. On page 3 of Anthony Gray's testimony given on September 30th, 2021, Mr. Gray describes rate consolidation as rates that are, quote, developed on a system-wide basis, similar to how costs and rates are addressed for electric and gas utilities. However, as a utility, the way water is sourced, distributed, consumed, and recycled back in an environment is fundamentally different than either electric or gas utilities. For example, electricity is most often sourced in a highly centralized generation system near natural sources of energy, and then distributed very far geographically to where it is consumed. The Western Electrical Interconnection alone stretches power distribution over 1,500 miles from Canada to Mexico, providing power to the entire western coast of North America. The point being that electrical generation and distribution systems are all physically interconnected and shared among many communities regardless of where the actual power is coming from. Thus, a system-wide billing scheme for electric service involving geographically distinct regions does make sense. Conversely, the water used by the province's community is sourced only a half-mile away from my home from an aquifer that sits below us and is distributed through a total of approximately 13 miles of pipe. So our water is sourced, pumped from the ground, treated, and then consumed entirely and exclusively within about the 3-mile radius encompassing our own community. The province's water system is neither interconnected with, nor receives or supplies water with the other communities of Greenridge, Highland Estates, or Pinto that are also served by Maryland Water Service. In fact, these communities, which are as far as 150 miles away from us, have also completely isolated water infrastructures from each other, excepting Pinto and Highland States sharing a common source. The only commonality between our communities is Maryland Water Service. If Maryland Water Service were to buy utilities in places like Las Vegas, where water is scarce and expensive to source, or Flint, Michigan, where the entire distribution system requires replacement, would it also make sense to consolidate rates between our communities and make the provinces financially responsible for the costs associated with delivering water to people that have no connection to us other than what company they pay for water? Thus, when Mr. Gray suggests that the billing rate be developed on a system-wide basis, the word system should reflect the actual, distinct, tangible collection of geographical water source, distribution pipes, and treatment centers contained within a community's water supply, and not the intangible billing footprint of the company who owns multiple such systems. The primary public interest aspect is that by increasing the rate base, they are saving us from some vague, unpredictable rate shock in the future. What are the specific scenarios that have them concerned? I would like them to explain how a guaranteed, quote, sizable increase now is going to protect the provinces from an undefined rate shock later. Our entire water infrastructure is isolated, and the availability of our water source is guaranteed by geography, and our maintenance costs are planned for. The only real source of variability in what it costs to deliver our water is what Maryland Water Service wants to charge us for it, and if they're failing to correctly maintain our distribution system in the pursuit of higher profits. It is not in the interest of the province's community to see an otherwise unnecessary rate increase, either gradual or immediate, if it does not result directly from the tangible costs associated with supplying our community with water. Burdening our water system with overwrought, for-profit, multi-state corporate structures does nothing to enhance the reliability or safety of our water and only serves as an unnecessary tax on what is a basic human right. Out of all the communities served by Maryland Water Service, the province currently has the lowest cost for water service. I believe this is primarily due to the fact that our local geography provides for water that's easily attainable directly from the ground beneath us, does not require particularly invasive or expensive treatment, and the cost for building our distribution infrastructure, which was built over 40 years ago, has already been completely paid for. This is not the case for two of the other communities that are unable to source their own water and are required to purchase their water from a more expensive third-party supplier and have potentially not paid off their infrastructure building costs. It's fundamentally unfair to require our community to share in any of the costs for maintaining or developing water systems for which it is impossible we will ever see a drop of water from. The dramatic rate increase being requested of us is due to the investments being made outside our community by a private sector company for the purpose of facilitating their own financial growth and also somehow for the purpose of ensuring a minimum return for their parent company's capital. I'm not aware of any other industry that has the luxury of being able to leverage a legally protected complete monopoly to guarantee a minimum return on capital investment made to a private company in this way. No investment made in developing or maintaining a water supply in other communities will ever result in better quality water or more reliable service for our community. The financial solvency of our water supplier is, of course, important, but its financial growth at our expense is not. In Mr. Gray's testimony about the financial rate test case, which includes unnecessary costs shifted onto Maryland Water Service from its parent company, Krosch Regulated Utilities, they indicated an approximate net operating loss of 2% from serving our community. Due to this loss and similar smaller losses, they have requested an over 100% increase in our bill. This doesn't make any sense. For the extra $860,000 increase they are requesting, the province's community could itself afford to permanently hire on staff an entire dedicated team of legal and engineering experts. Or alternatively, we could not waste money on technical services and corporate structures that exist primarily to enrich companies in Illinois at the expense of communities in Maryland. It's my position that not only should the rate increase be curtailed to what's actually necessary to deliver the water and maintain our water system and the rate consolidation be denied, but that we should also initiate an investigation in how we can divest Maryland Water Service of its holdings in the province community's water system and put our community's water supply into a community-owned and managed entity. That concludes my prepared statement. I was also given a statement from an elderly resident who indicated he was not able to attend the meeting or access the Maryland Public Services website to be able to submit a comment. And I wanted to know if you would like me to read his brief comment now.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, case number 9671, Mark Bobinger Sr., MarkBobinger, Stonecastle Drive. And forgive me if I butchered his name a little bit. Be advised that I am a senior citizen and live on a fixed income. I cannot afford this rate increase. I don't think anyone can afford this. If this rate increase takes effect, I will have to sell my house and move. And that's his comment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Katria Kuzmowicz.
Hi, that's Katria Kuzmowicz, Katria. Kuzmowicz, Kuz as in zebra, Mowyc as in cat, Z as in zebra. I'm a resident of the province's neighborhood on Mane Way. And I would like to thank all of the folks who have spoken before me. You guys were far more eloquent in research than I am, but I did want to make my voice heard. I have lived in this neighborhood for about 2.5 years, coming up on 3. And we moved from Baltimore City partially because we had lived there for about 9 years and felt like we were kind of forced out. We had 2 young children, but our tax rates and our water rates increased dramatically in the time that we were there. And basically, my husband and I are both educators, and we realized as people who kind of have set salaries, we can't be budgeting our salaries towards consistently raised tax rates and water rates. And I know somebody mentioned before about sort of hiding the increase in the rates by moving it from monthly to monthly from quarterly. And that's exactly what happened in Baltimore City. The bills used to be quarterly. And then by spreading it monthly, it sort of seemed like, oh, it's not actually that big an increase, but it was a way of conveniently hiding it. Many in our neighborhood are retirees, military folks, public servants, and this significant increase would create an undue hardship to our residents, particularly because we are still in the midst of a pandemic. Many have lost their jobs. Many took a significant cut in their incomes, and the timing of this is just pretty downright horrible. Also on my street, and I don't know how the other streets in my neighborhood are faring with this, but we are still paying a $360 infrastructure bill per year for, I believe, what was the installation of some sort of water pipes a couple of years ago. This was prior to us moving here. So in addition to still paying that $360 fee, which comes to us in January, we are now being expected to potentially pay a huge increase in our water bills. And as I believe Mr. Beach had mentioned, a larger family such as mine, we have 2 young children, would see an increase larger than what is proposed as the average, particularly in the summertime, because 2 young kids, they like to fill up their pool, have a sprinkler going. So what is an average is maybe just based on like a two person household. And I would like to thank whoever sent these notices out, these orange notices, which we found on our mailboxes, because that is the only way that we found out about this proposed rate increase. So thank you to that concerned citizen or the civic organization association, because literally I would not have found out otherwise. We are quick to receive any kind of notification by email, phone. I mean, I received long voicemails about water main flushing or about a water outage, but yet crickets for this. And that to me suggests that they purposely tried to hide this, because if it were not for this bright orange notice, and thank you for printing on orange because I actually could see it that way, we would not have found out. Additionally, on our neighborhood Facebook page, a resident mentioned that they had tried to submit a comment through the, I guess it was through the Dropbox on the page, on the PSC page. I apologize if I said that incorrectly. And the only way to submit a comment was through a PDF, and something about the case number was not even correct. So they were not able to find that easily. And then they encountered an error submitting the PDF. Somebody who is maybe older, who maybe is not technologically savvy, for them, this would be maybe very hard to do. And it just suggesting again that this is kind of like a purposeful cover up. Furthermore, the public should have some sort of easily accessible way to see the exact budget breakdown, where exactly our money is going, the salaries of the folks within the Maryland Water Service Incorporated, in the same way that we receive our emails and bills. We should see some sort of breakdown of what exactly is proposed to happen here, other than potentially sifting through hundreds of documents on a website that the average citizen may not know how to access. And I believe that those are all my main comments. I tried to write down as much as I could. And my only suggestion, I feel like we are sort of captive, as many others had mentioned. We don't have an option to shop around. Even with electricity, you sort of have an option to shop around with like a third-party supplier. At least we were able to do that in Baltimore City. But water is a basic right, and we all need it to survive. And we don't really have a choice whether we get that water or not. And if any sort of rate increase does happen to go through, even despite this public outcry, I would suggest phasing it over a series of years instead of all at once, because again, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We are facing financial hardships of all sorts, particularly our folks who are senior citizens and on fixed incomes. And that sort of huge jump is just, it's inconceivable. And a family does not have enough notice to fix that into their budget. And again, thank you. And thank you to all the citizens who have done all the research and read through all those documents, because I know that would have been way, way over my head. So thank you.
Thank you. Edward Arnold.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Edward Arnold, EDWARD, Arnold, ARNOLD. Good evening, Your Honor. And I've lived here almost 29 years in the Sandridge Homeowners Association, just north of the Severn Library. And instead of having a bunch of our community people talking, they put me as their voice. And their main concern is $80 a month is such a drastic increase over what we pay. and that's not a normal. That's not putting us to what normal people pay. I mean, I have a house in Hanover, and I pay $105 a quarter for that water. So um, I just don't think the 255% increase is what normal people pay. And they wanted us, my community wanted to know how much of this percent increase is for the price adjustment for the water, how much is for infrastructure, how much is going to the shareholders. So they wanted to see if y'all could break that out. And they're curious as to how MWS consume province's utilities. They just buy them because there was an opportunity to potentially take over this company and make money. It just like we didn't hear about it until the last minute. As far as notifying people, I didn't get notified either. It was Cindy Williams with the provinces that sent me the email that showed me what was going on. So I think the notifications could come come in our bills, things like that, if that gratuity, gravity, or email to the community leaders. And the emails that can be forwarded from the community leaders to the actual households. Somebody's already talked about phasing in an approach, but still, even phasing in 255%, even if it was over 5 years, that's just a lot of money. We were curious as to how many gallons do we get for that $80 per month. Like Joseph was saying earlier, that this is just a base amount. And so I don't know what the base amount of water is. And like he's saying, if it's 3,000 gallons a month, I'm going to go way over that. And so my bill's not going to be $80.50. It's going to be a lot more than that. At first, we were thinking that the rate increase probably involved wastewater and maybe garbage collection. Maybe that, they were just doing everything to everybody the same, but apparently MWS is only a water company. And back in 2009, provinces was going to raise our water prices. So we went to the county, and the county on our plat for all the other homeowners associations, if you look on your plat, you need to read that. On our plat, it says that we can switch over to Anne Arundel County water for free. Now, when I talked to Leslie Campbell with the county, she says until the provinces raise the water bill, she's not even going to entertain the situation. So I'm in communication with them again. And our plat does say that we can switch over to province's water for free, because at the time the county didn't have water up to our subdivision, but it is now all the way up to the Severn Library, and the county could easily just put water into our subdivision and just take us away from this utility company. So I am looking into that. Again, like in other communities, seniors and young families are going to find this a challenge to make that payment. The only concern that we have here, I think, in this subdivision is a lot of people complain about black stains on their toilets, but we don't get clogged strainers and stuff like that. So I think our water is in pretty good shape. And I was wondering if they were considered buying the water from the county. If they have a problem cleaning water, the county looks like they might have it figured out. Would you consider buying the water from the county and reselling it to us? And that way you don't have to worry about this big infrastructure for cleaning and stuff like that. So that's all I have. Thanks everybody for your comments as well.
Thank you. Tiffany Knight.
Evening. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
My name is Tiffany Knight, Tissany, Knight. I'm a homeowner in the provinces in Severn, Maryland. I've lived here for over 12 years. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this important issue. I do have a prepared statement. With respect to the company's argument about declining consumption being a contributing factor in the rate increase, the provinces is the only one of the 5 impacted communities that has a required minimum water consumption charge of 10,000 gallons on our quarterly bill. Therefore, there is a guaranteed minimum of capital the company will receive to provide and maintain our water infrastructure. Therefore, quote, declining consumption is not a relevant argument in our community. Of the capital projects cited as contributing to this rate increase, the total capital spent in the province's community was only 21% of the total dollars spent. Using this as a basis for rate consolidation is a deliberate attempt to have the oldest community with infrastructure that has already been paid for shoulder the cost burden of developing other communities. With regards to Exhibit JBM-1, quote, resolution supporting consideration of regulatory policies deemed as best practices, end quote, which is being cited as the basis to consolidate rates, Maryland Water Service has conveniently left out the other mitigations provided for reducing rate impact on customers, such as, quote, rate case phase-ins, innovative payment arrangements, and targeted customer assistance programs, end quote. So I have to ask, what steps has Maryland Water Service taken to reduce our rate increase? Using rate consolidation as a justification for a rate increase goes against the spirit of this document. The intent of this document is to list ways in which companies can reduce the financial burden on the individual consumer. It is not intended to be cited by a multi-state utility conglomerate to unduly burden customers who have no choice in water provider. This is a blatant example of corporate greed taking advantage of a complete monopoly in a small community. Another important point on the previously referenced document that Maryland Water Service has also conveniently left out is, quote, reduce or remove the need to use outside counsel or counseling services, thus reduce rate application, duration, and cost, end quote. Exactly how much money are these lawyers that are representing a water company which is based in Chicago, Illinois, costing us? The Maryland residents, they're being asked to foot the bill through this very rate increase. This brings me to my final point. To justify a meager 1.88% loss, Maryland Water Service used a test year of June 2020 through June 2021, one of the most financially volatile years in the past decade. Why aren't they required to provide more than 1 year of test financials? Why are they permitted to use test financials from a year with a global pandemic with an unprecedented number of residents that are unable to afford basic utilities? And the elephant in the room. If their projected loss on a hypothetical financial year is only 1.88%, why do they need to more than double their revenue? If Maryland Water Service needs a 108% increase to cover a hypothetical 1% loss, they are either corrupt or they just can't do math. To use a technical term, this entire deal does not pass the smell test. Thank you very much for your time and allowing me to speak today.
Thank you. Casey Hammond?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Casey Hayman. It's spelled C-A-S-E-Y H-A-M-A-N-N. I've been a resident of the provinces for 11 years. My comments have been addressed by other speakers tonight, so I just wanted to state my support for the provinces joining the Anne Arundel County water system. That is all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ernest Halton?
Good afternoon. Turning my video situated. Good evening, Your Honor. And my name is E.J. Houghton. I'm a lieutenant in the United States Navy, and I live in the provinces. First thing I'd like to say is I want to thank everybody who's come on so far, all the time that they've taken out into the research and all the numbers and facts that you brought into this. I really do appreciate it. And I think it's truly amazing to see when the community and the neighborhood is given enough time and preparation to come forward with an argument. We come forward with a really, really good argument. I'm just really appalled at this point to see that it's taken this long and we've gone this far to get to this point of complete absurdity in which we are now being forced and a point to quadruple our rates. I think we can see as well from this call that all of us are outraged and all of us are demanding some kind of action to take place for a complete inaction, what we've seen so far. So from my standpoint as a Navy lieutenant, I know a bunch of enlisted who live here. One of the reasons that I moved to this place was I want to speak from a more humanistic side of this argument, which is you buy houses and you buy property, number one, to live in and have a roof over your head. But at some point, you do want to move on. And when you move on, it calls for selling or renting your property. And if you take a look at Zillow and in areas around, you can see that there are not that many opportunities for people who are selling or renting their property in what should be a very high area of renting, which is near a large military base. So just for background, the military gets paid an extra amount, which is called their BAH, their basic housing allowance. And some numbers for them right now is we have a wide array of military members in this community, ranging from the lower enlisted to some higher officers. But as has been stated multiple times in this conversation, most of those are pretty modest pay. And just some ranges here. So for the E5 with dependents, they get an extra $2,436 a month. So what that means, their BH is the allowance to offset the cost of housing. So when you don't live on base, you get paid an extra amount of money. And that money is supposed to go towards what it takes to live in a house. Now, with that E5 who's getting $2,400 with dependents, without dependents, it's only $2,010. To the higher level, which I'm an 03, and I make $2,700 in BAH with dependents and $2,535 without dependents. Again, looking at the cost of living to rent or to purchase in this area, you'll see that for what most of the provinces are, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, the cost of that is upwards of $2,700 to $3,000. So already we're grossly out of the range of what the military has determined for our area, our cost of living, what houses should be. And as I said, BH is the allowance to offset the cost of housing. So this isn't just mortgage. This isn't just meant to be for rent. This is meant to be for your rent, your mortgage, your utilities, your water bill, your power bill, and anything else that comes into that. And what people try to do in the military is live below their means. And so when you ask an E5 who's making with dependents, we'll say a wife and a couple kids, doesn't matter if it's just a wife or wife and any kids, making $2,400 to pay to live in this area, upwards of $3,000, not even including this extraordinary water bill that's being added, it's a big factor. And I think we've had a lot of people talk about demographics, talk about, hey, how much people are making. And I'm sure there's been things out there that says, okay, what's an extra $80 a month? But that extra $80 can be a decision. Working with enlisted, working with other people whose finances aren't at the top tier, that extra $80 puts people in a hard position to make some hard choices. And that is what MWS is doing with this increase. It's really changing the scope and the scale of what it's going to cost to live in an area that's close to their work, what it's going to cost to move from a place like Texas, where it's even lower income, and then have to resort to, hey, thinking that my BAH is going to cover my housing when it really doesn't. So again, in that human sense, when it comes to renting or selling a house, not only does the person buying put in a tough situation, but the person selling or renting is put in a tough situation. And I think most of the members here have that opportunity to sell or rent at some time in their life. And it's completely taking the option of selling to military off the table. Not only, as I already said, are housing prices outrageously high, past what BAH is, but to add this on top is going to be an obvious question people are going to ask, and it's going to be an obvious deterrent for our neighbors to sell or rent their houses. That pretty much ends my statement here. Again, I want to thank everybody who's come on. I really just want to touch on the human side of this argument, not so much focus on the numbers, but focus around, hey, being able to buy in a place that's near a military installation, which military members should have the opportunity to do, and also other people who are here to sell or rent, which with this hike increase is going to make that conversation a lot more difficult, and a lot of people are not going to be able to carry on with their lifestyle because of this hike increase. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Troy Corbett.
Hi, my name is Troy Corbett. That's spelled Troy Corbett. I'm also a resident of the provinces. I've purchased a home here and lived here for 18 years. And I dare say that I've never been prouder to be a resident of the province whose community than I have been this evening. I'm very impressed with the quality of neighbors that I have, and I don't think I ever plan to sell. I'm really grateful for this opportunity that I had to voice my own opinion. I am grateful to Joseph Beach and Tony Knight and Jennifer and Katria and all those who spoke so eloquently this evening and voiced. And I'd like to echo the same comments that they've made. Really, I'll just foot stomp that not that I don't think we were very well informed of this increase. Not at all. If it hadn't been for the good civic behavior of kind neighbors, I don't think we would have known at all. I didn't know. And without them, I would not have known. And I think it has been pointed out that, we do receive good notice when there's drain cleanings and when there's other needs to shut down things. I think we receive good notice then, and it's certainly within the capability of the company, I think, to be able to provide that type of notice. But not for this rate increase. I think these increases are clearly unreasonable. It's amazing to me that if you are having a less than a 2% loss, why you need a 255% increase to cover that, and or to make it good. It seems that you've been able to complete previous projects, and I don't know how you're able to do that, but still need quite such a. It just doesn't pass, as someone said, it doesn't pass the smell test. If this was on the cover of the Wall Street Journal, it would be, the country would be up in arms. I'm grateful that someone did bring it to our attention so that you can see the level of concern in the neighborhood, and I think they bring up some very good points about the unreasonableness of this, and really just how terrible the situation really looks and feels, and I can't believe that anyone can propose this with really a straight face. If any other cost in your life was being raised by 255%, I think it would cause for at least a raised eyebrow. And I think I'll just go ahead and yield back the rest of the time so that other comments can be made. Thank you so much for everyone.
Thank you. Jonathan Max Somer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Jonathan Max Somer. That's JONATHMAX-SOHMER. I'm a resident and homeowner in the Provinces neighborhood in Anne Arundel County. I've lived here for nearly 12 years. Maryland Water Service Incorporated, a for-profit company with a guaranteed monopoly, has targeted my neighborhood for nearly quadrupling our water prices. I'm not a civil engineer, nor am I a lawyer, nor an accountant. And because MWS, while likely adhering to the bare minimum required by law, chose not to furnish its customers directly with the actual details of their rate proposal, I've only had a short time to review it. But what I have seen in their proposal provokes several pointed questions about MWS's competence and/or commitment to public service. Regarding disproportionate price premiums relative to other service areas nearby public water, the service areas outside Anne Arundel County are mostly in Cumberland, all the way on the other side of the state. The Anne Arundel County public supply water rate is only $2.83 per 1,000 gallons. Cumberland public water rates are, for anything more than nominal usage, $5.01 per 1,000 gallons. MWS refers to consolidating rates being fair share due to providing the same service to all service areas, but it omits the fact that the service areas are in different geographical regions with different water sources that have different treatment needs. Public water in Cumberland normally costs twice as much as Anne Arundel County water. The utility is simply more expensive there. By consolidating rates across all service areas, MWS is attempting to force province's service area customers to subsidize communities in Cumberland whose water costs are expected to be and always have been higher. Notably, utility costs are factored into property values, so province's customers have already paid a further premium on their homes for rates that have always been and should be lower. This consolidation would force province's property values down and, relatively speaking, boost those of MWS's customers in the other regions, a non-trivial wealth transfer. And to justify this, MWS says it will make their paperwork easier. Regarding gross inefficiencies, now the proposed consolidated rate is more than quadruple the cost of public water service in Anne Arundel County. If the numbers are presented are accurate, then clearly MWS has not bothered to pursue available efficiencies, likely because they know they can always pass the costs on to the customers with minimal increase given their granted monopoly. On the subject of serving the public interest, MWS's claim that consolidation is in the public interest is dubious at best. Given the obvious and gross inefficiency of operation relative to public water service in Anne Arundel County, as evidenced by their asserted need to charge more than quadruple the county's water prices, MWS's granted monopoly should be revoked and its infrastructure taken over by the county, after which the county can connect the affected service areas to municipal water if necessary to reduce operating costs. This serves the public interest far better than continuing to allow a for-profit company to feast on the profits afforded by passing any and all cost increases to the public instead of pursuing innovation and efficiency. Regarding operating cost increases, MWS has used only a single year's sample to highlight increased operating expenses, and conveniently they picked a year that has been rife with supply chain and labor disruptions, which are generally expected to be temporary and will subside after the pandemic transitions to an endemic state. After this time, MWS will pocket the difference as profit, achieved by cherry-picking an anomalous year's expenses. The Commission should demand additional evidence be submitted proving that the sample year's difficulties are sustained rather than transient. Regarding sustainable operation, the province's service area has been operated independently of the other areas for decades. If the franchise had been operating at such an incredible loss as to require quadrupling prices, it would have collapsed years ago, and the for-profit company that is rebranded as MWS would have discharged it. Before even considering any allowance of rate increases and/or consolidation, the operating numbers presented should therefore be very carefully scrutinized, and MWS's accounts audited by the Maryland Public Service Commission to rule out unconventional accounting practices, unusual capital outflows, abnormally high franchise fees paid to the parent company, and excessive executive compensation. And I'd like to speak regarding the proposals for rate shock mitigations. MWS claims to be sensitive to rate shock, yet its offered suggestions for addressing such ignore the actual impact. Phasing in the change over some small period of time does not change the fact that MWS will ultimately take nearly $700 from the pocket of every household in the provinces every year, with little justification provided for the inefficiency requiring it. So what should residents give up to compensate for this inefficiency? Their cell phones that they depend on for knowing to pick their kids up from daycare in an emergency? Maybe their internet access that kids require for school. Even a for-profit utility should be operating in a mindset of public service, and a rate increase anywhere close to this magnitude should be a last resort after searching for every possible efficiency that can be had without compromising safety and quality. There is no public interest served with this proposal, only an interest in profit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anna Mazzi.
Thank you. My name is Anna Maisie. That's spelled A-N-N-A. N as in Nancy, N as in Nancy, A. My last name is M as in Mary, A, Z as in zebra, I. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I also live in the provinces and am a homeowner here. And I would like to speak against the proposed rate hike. As others have already shared their figures and percentages specific to that, I won't go back over that. But I would like to mention that the only notice that my husband and I received about any of this was 2 emails. We received an email on the 13th of January and also on the 20th of January stating that they wanted to consolidate our water company from the provinces to the Maryland water company. There was nothing in those emails about a rate increase. As my husband and I, our household was sick during that time, as many households have been over the past couple of years, we did not attend the hearings for that. We got no other notice in regards to this other than the flyer that others have mentioned that we had on our mailbox last week. So we didn't really have a whole lot of time to research all of this information, as we felt it was really, for the most part, it was hidden from us. Maybe it was hidden in plain sight, but it was hidden. As I said, others have stated these figures. I won't go back over them. However, I've spent most of my adult life living in military housing around the world. So this is the first time my husband and I have owned a home. So we're relatively new to this. When I found out about this, I decided I wanted to learn a little bit more about how private utility companies worked. So I looked into that to see profits and so forth. And others have shared more specific figures related to our community, so I won't rehash those. But I did learn that the way that utility companies appear to work is basically on what I refer to as the Walmart model, where they make their money in volume, not in high rates for individual items. So lots of items at a low cost, a relatively low cost, I should say. So with that in mind, I was like, okay, well, how much does this water company actually own? I went to look to see what Maryland Water Services own. Did they really have this loss that they projected they did? That's when I discovered that they were owned by Krosch. With that in mind, with the profit being hinging on a large infrastructure, please excuse me, I'm still a little bit recovering. So my mind is not, sometimes my mind wanders a bit. So with that in mind, Krosch, according to their website, is one of the largest private utility companies in the United States, operating in over 19 different states. Many of those water companies they own, from what I was reading, coincidentally have also requested to have rate increases. So that made me curious. Just how far in the red then was Krosch that they needed a 255% rate increase for my community? So when I looked into that, I was not able to find what their profits were. Instead, what I was able to find was that Krosch is owned by the British Columbia Investment Management Corporation. And the British Columbia Investment Management Corporation operates in Canada and the US. And last year they had revenues of $908 million. And they have an investment portfolio of $92.1 billion. This leads me to believe that this is not a small company that is struggling to get out of the red. It's not even a mid-sized company with an eye to the future. It tells me that this is a major conglomerate, albeit a small part of that major conglomerate, but it's a major part of a major conglomerate that is trying to take advantage of this monopoly that they have over a vital resource that every human being needs. It's a price gouge because they control that monopoly, and they control our access to that resource. And I believe that is supported by the fact that they did hide these desires to raise our prices in plain sight. There was no notices sent to us by them. There was nothing about rate hikes in the 2 emails that we got. There was nothing in our water bill from them. It was my neighbors who notified me of this, not my water company. But even if that is untrue, even if I'm misunderstanding their intent, even if they were a small company trying to get out of the red. Even if we took their numbers at face value, their numbers that I see here, that they said that they claimed that they had a 1.8% loss last year. They were in the negative for that. Inflation, because I do understand prices go up, inflation happens, everyone has higher expenses. Inflation last year was 7%. Even if you factor in a profit margin for that, a reasonable profit margin of even say 9%, which my research earlier said is the average for a utility company. As my neighbors shared more specific figures for our community, I'll just leave it at the average, but defer to you, of course, for the more specific ones. Even if you add those figures together, 7% plus the 1.8% that they were in the hole to bring them back to zero, plus let's just say even the 9% return for their investors, that still would not equal 255%. Even if you factored in upgrades for our system, which, as other speakers have pointed out, the upgrades are not even for our water system. But even if they were, and you factor that in, it still would not equal 255%. I believe that this is an attempt to price gouge, and I believe it was done in a very underhanded manner. And I support my fellow residents in saying if this is going to be the case, then I believe that we should consolidate with our county water supply. Thank you.
Thank you. Mabel Ware.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm not going to go over everything everybody has said. It's very interesting in the figures and everything, but I want to do on a personal level is I'm a resident of Providence, has been here nearly 45 years, and I am on a fixed income, and I think this hike in the water bill from quarterly to monthly will really cause a real big hike in my expenses. The other thing I want to say is, like, why wasn't the Providence's residents notified of this I'm gonna say takeover, you know, from the Providence's utilities? I just have questions. You know, why is the Providence's bearing this the brunt of this increase? Why isn't it divided among the other communities? You know, this 255% increase is like, it's outrageous, you know. Personally, and I'm going to be very short here, you know, I appreciate all the other people that came forth and gave all the figures and everything. And it seems to me personally that we in the province are being targeted for this extreme cost. And the other thing I want to say, even if we keep the MSW, it's like, what are you going to do with the seniors that's on a fixed income? I'm on a fixed income. That's all I have to say. I'm sorry. It's like everything has been so interesting.
Thank you. Molly Williams. Molly Williams. Tina Jedlanik.
On mute.
Hello, is this Tina?
Yeah, yes, I apologize for that.
That's
My
okay.
name is Tina Jedlanik, Tina, last name Jedlanik, Jedlanek. I did have several thoughts this evening. However, I can make this extremely short. I believe everybody who has spoken before my husband and I have articulated in a very well manner every thought that we've had, and we totally agree with everything that they're saying. And there was no notification whatsoever that we received. It was only through my neighbor that we did find out about this meeting this evening. And that's all I really have to say, because everything has been stated and they're very accurate. And I thank you. That would
Thank
be
you.
okay.
Was there something else, or I didn't want to?
Well, my husband and I are on a very fixed income. And that was the only other thing, but that's already been stated by several people also. So I thank you.
Thank you. Farhat Omer. Shirley Singleton.
Good evening. My name is Shirley Singleton. My name is spelled Shirley, Shirley, Singleton, Singleton. I'm a Providence homeowner for 28 years. Me and my husband, he retired here. And I'm in the protest of this Maryland water service increase of our water bill. I do work daycare, so I am not making much money. I do understand that everything is going up, but this is really ridiculous and is outrageous. And I just wanted to come on to say that I agree with all the homeowners that this is outrageous. And I thank you for listening to me, and I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Chen.
Well, my name is Eric Chen, ERICKCHEN. I'm a vet and 20-year veteran, 20-year resident of Provinces. I think this proposal is ludicrous, absurd. I'm very upset. I was at the last meeting in 2009, and I think it fell on deaf ears when we objected to the rate hike. We lived with it, and this time it is really upsetting. Anyway, I think I can speak for myself and my neighbors that we do not consent to this ridiculous attempt to a rate hike. To me, it is as if a excuse my language, some idiot who think this is a good idea for a service provider to act like a communist agency to impose price hike. I have no notice, no service, no justification to my knowledge that this was going on until I walked in the door the other day. In addition, I just want to express that it's unethical. And from my last hearing in 2009, what I learned is that we own the water. It is our water lines. So when Maryland Water Service bought out the province's water, all they are doing is providing a service that we asked them to provide for for profit. So if MWS don't understand that, they can get lost, and we will find another service provider. And for those who are organizing that, please look into that. Your Honor, I would like to ask you a question, if you can comment on it. How will this hearing impact the outcome of the MWS proposal if this is only opinions and not treated as testimonies? Thank you.
Thank you. Sean Toole.
Am I coming through okay?
Yes.
Okay.
So like many of the people before me, I have a written statement I was prepared to read. However, very impressive, all the people that have participated and given facts. And I think all the issues and points that I had intended on covering have been covered very well. I'd certainly like to thank the Maryland Public Service Commission for the opportunity for all of us to voice our opinions, but obviously me specifically, with concerns and comments as it relates to the matter, and also thank the Office of the People's Counsel and their staff members and expert consultants for their representation and advocacy on the case. Their expertise should be immediately evident to anyone reviewing their testimony, although admittedly most of it was over my head. I'd also like to thank you, Yari, for your considerations in this matter and all the information that's being provided by my neighbors and their comments. For the much larger comments I had, and I practiced, couldn't get them under 10 minutes. So what I will do is I'll just send those in through the comment section on your website. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. James Kitchen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. My name is James Kitchen, JamesKitchin. I direct the Office of Community Engagement and Constituent Services for County Executive Pittman, and I'm speaking on his behalf tonight. And we started, before I read a letter that he wrote and we'll be submitting as part of the public comment, we'll submit by writing. I just want to say our office started getting calls on this issue a few weeks ago. We briefed the county executive. He was very concerned and would be incredibly impressed if he were able to hear everything I've heard tonight with the residents of the provinces. You all should be very proud of the way you've come together as a community. And I will definitely pass on to him what I've heard tonight and how impressed I am with the organization of your community. But he is going to submit a letter, and it reads, Mr. Johnson, I'm writing to express strong opposition to the rate increase proposed for residents of the province's community in Anne Arundel County by Maryland Water Services. The proposed rates would be a 255% increase in the bill for the average residential customer. Our Department of Public Works analyzed the proposed rates and concluded that a household consuming 6,000 gallons per month, so that would be 200 gallons a day for 30 days, would be paying over 4 times what the county charges for our residential customers for the same amount of water. And it then says, see the attached memo from the Anne Arundel County Department of Public Works for specifics. The Office of the People's Counsel also found that the Maryland Water Service overestimated the revenue deficiency by $629,140, which we find very disturbing. As our county recovers from the economic impacts of a pandemic, we must protect our residents from unreasonable increases in the prices charged for the basic necessities of life. Please protect our residents from this rate hike. Sincerely, Stuart Pittman, County Executive, Anne Arundel County. And just briefly, the memo from the Department of Public Works. So we took the base rate that was in the proposed, and then the unit rate, and compared that to what the county charges for the environmental protection fee, which is sort of equivalent to the base rate, and then our per unit fee. And so again, for that 6,000 gallons over a 30-day period, at what we had just said, we would charge $22.50 per month for that 6,000 gallons. And in the application, the math we did said that they would be charged $94.79. So again, over 4 times what the county would charge. And I would just say to all the residents that have talked about the county taking over the water here, there is a process for that. I believe the Civic Association in the provinces have reached out to Public Works, and they're discussing that. It is citizen driven. But if the community petitions, and I've seen that happen in other parts of the county over the past several years, but if the residents of a neighborhood petition, there is a process to initiate the county taking over the public water for that community. So keep that in mind. I put my information in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me, include me on messages to county officials on that topic. But again, thanks everyone for being here tonight. Thank you for taking our comment, and we wish everyone a good rest of the evening.
Thank you. Cody Wirtz.
Hi there. I'm here if you can hear me.
Sure can.
Cody Wirtz, CODYWERTZ. I'm a homeowner in the Provinces Association, or Provinces, been here about 7 years. Like many before me, I don't think I can say anything that hasn't already been said more eloquently by our neighbors. I am in opposition of the proposed rate increase and the consolidation. I want to in particular point out that I support the statements made tonight by Tony Knight, Tiffany Knight, James Kitchen, who just spoke on behalf of the county, and Ernest Holton, who spoke on behalf of the military folks that are living in our neighborhood. Basically, in a nutshell, to be very brief, I think the $11.73 rate per 1,000 gallons is much, much higher than any comparable rates that are in the area in the state, whether that's public or private. Dan Matlin last meeting pointed that out, that rates are around $2 to $3 with a higher rate of like $6. So $11 I feel is too high. And one point of view that I agree with and wanted to highlight was the testimony of Jerome Mierzwa. I apologize if I mispronounced that. He's with the Office of People's Counsel. I've had a week to kind of review this and kind of become an expert in utility law and just checking out utility information, where Jerome has said in the testimony that he's argued 400 plus cases. He said that I agree that the rates should eventually be consolidated, but the 208% increase to the province's service territory is too extreme to implement, and he suggested gradualism to reduce the rate shock. So I just wanted to come on as a homeowner in the neighborhood, make a brief statement that I do not support the rate increase, and my family does not support the rate increase or consolidation. And I agree with a lot of my community members that have spoke tonight. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to giving residents a chance to have a voice in this matter.
Thank you. Andrew Kaiser.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Your Honor. I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity. I am also a member of the Green Ridge community, and we only got 2 emails that were very vague, and we thought these were about consolidation and not about water rates being raised. And had it not been for Miss Cassandra Bryant on Facebook, we would have known nothing about what was taking place. I just want to touch a little bit on the quality of our water. Everybody here has hit the financials. I pretty much agree with everyone else about this rate hike. Has anyone from this company ever tasted the water? It's horrible. Not only does it taste bad, it's also full of mineral deposits. It stains all your fixtures. It corrodes all your fixtures out. We had to replace a water heater within 4 years. The toilets are stained as well. I know somebody mentioned that the inside of the tanks are really stained. And I'd like to mention that the water itself is not clear. There's a lot of turbidity in the water. And as other folks have stated, we have no choice. We're stuck with this company. So I'd just like, again, to say thank you for allowing me to speak and the other folks here tonight. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Frederick Ruff. Albert Gorgons Jr. Can you unmute yourself, sir?
Yes. Oh, sorry. My name is Albert Gergens Jr., ALBERT Jr. And my wife and I have been residents with our 3 children in the provinces since 1976. And I think I can say unequivocally that we probably have the best water in Anne Arundel County. Our aquifer water tower pulls water from beyond the Allegheny Mountains. And if anybody has an opportunity to move into our community, they will find that this water does not need to be filtered. It does not need any other treatment other than the normal treatment for purity. And it's been an amazing thing to live here for all these years. No one's had a problem with any of the distribution. Just recently, we've seen a number of water main breaks, but again, that's an issue which is going to develop from time to time. I'd like to comment on a couple of things that I've noticed. As far as notifications are concerned, our last bill was in November of last year, and that bill was the same as the bills we've received for years, indicating at the bottom, province's water company. If the Maryland Water Service didn't want to obfuscate the takeover of the system, why wouldn't they put their own name or some indication on that bill as late as last year? That bill was paid at the end of November, early in December. Again, at the bottom right, it said Province's Water Company. As far as the charges are concerned, I agree with everyone else who's spoken tonight. They've done an excellent job, and they've had a lot of time, not much time to do anything. I helped pass out a few leaflets last week, and found no one I spoke to had ever heard anything at all about the takeover of the water system by Maryland Water Service, or what they plan to do with our system. A friend of mine gave me a copy of his water and wastewater service bill from Anne Arundel County, and this is for the Severna Park, Millersville area. And on it, it lists the current readings for water and the consumption. On this particular bill, it lists consumption of 29. Now, to me, that's 29,000 gallons. This is a 3-month bill. Their bill's $82. 29,000 gallons for $82 right here in our own county. Now, that is that's Anne Arundel County, Maryland Water Service provided from the county, and it's very close to the same rates that we would be paying. We've been paying for years. And I ask Your Honor and the other members of the Public Service Commission to look at that. Yes, we have, I think, the best water in the county. We can share some of it. Why wouldn't that be a viable opportunity? And again, I think we're all going to be looking into that. Everything else anyone else has said has been wonderfully stated and very well researched, and I certainly do appreciate that. I'm not going anywhere. They're going to carry me out of here. I love living in the provinces. I like our area, and have always came here when it was farmland, basically, and enjoyed that for a short period of time. But Your Honor, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morgan Arvanay?
Can you hear me, Your Honor?
Yes.
I really, everybody, I appreciate. I have been living in provinces for close to 40 years. This rate increase is really.
You are fading in and out.
Your Honor, ask him to lean in closer, please.
Okay. Mr. Arvanay, yeah, can you lean in closer to the microphone?
Sure. It's right on my screen, so I put my monitor, but I want to keep it short. I agree with
that didn't resolve the issue. Your sound quality is not good.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Honor, for the time given. Basically, I agree with everybody. This rate increase not fair to people. I am 65, retired, couple of years, have a fixed income. It's going to be unbelievable.
There's no way I could transcribe that, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Arvanay?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have the ability, remember when you answer me, well, I can hear you, but then when you start to speak, you fade out. I don't know if there's a way you can stay close to the microphone or turn up your microphone.
I have.
How about if he calls in?
It's maxed out. Just shortly, I appreciate the time and other people talking. Based on my calculation, that $22, it says it would increase to $80. That's
Mr. Arvanay?
350%, not 250%.
Mr. Arvanay? Do you know how to submit written comments?
Yes.
Okay. I think it might be best if you did that because we're not able to hear you clearly.
Okay.
Okay?
I already wrote a letter and I'm sending it tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry about that.
Comfort Kabay? Comfort Kabay? Okay, is there anyone who's with us this evening that for whatever reason I don't have you on my list that hasn't had a chance to speak?
Your Honor?
Yes.
I'd like to just say one quick thing.
Can you state your name for the record,
I'm
please?
sorry, Edward Arnold again.
Okay.
The one thing I did forget to mention is for the residents that are listening, your water, wastewater charge is based on your water, not consumption, but water charge. So if it's 32.5% and your water bill's going up, then you can see your wastewater bill skyrocketing as well.
Okay, is there anyone else who hasn't had a chance to speak this evening that would like to be heard?
This is Jennifer Matthews. If you could let me know if I'm allowed to continue.
Yes, I'm going to come back to you. I was just making sure that there wasn't anyone else who hadn't spoken yet. Okay, I think everyone else has had a chance to speak. So, Jennifer Matthews, if you could continue with your comments, please.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. So I had made my second point, which was about the locality discrimination. And I think I can screen share, but I can submit the comparison of the census tables. My point number 3 was in the 292 page filing. The only thing that was redacted are the salaries. Corporate revenue is increasing 108%, which will more than double their revenue. And if our water bill is proposed to increase 255%, then we have a right to know what percentage of the $3 million in revenue is salaries. Do the salaries comprise 20%, 40%, or 60% or more of the expenses? So we request to have those numbers revealed for full transparency, along with the exact dollar amount of any non-stock bonuses paid to MWS employees each year. Point number 4. The filing claims that having one uniform rate would be less confusing for all customers involved. That's another false statement, as evidenced by all the statements here by my fellow neighbors in the provinces. The provinces is totally confused by paying 255% for repairs and services for 3 other communities, including sewer services. The provinces does not get sewer services from MWS. So why should we start paying for sewer services that we don't use? We'll be paying for sewer services through MWS, and we will also be paying for sewer services to Anne Arundel County. Does that mean that if we're out in Allegheny County, we could ring the doorbell of somebody in Pinto and say, hey, can we use your toilet? Because we're actually paying for it. It just doesn't make sense. Point number 5. Has been stated by some of my fellow neighbors that there's mismanagement, which is evidenced throughout the 292-page document. The management team has chosen not to incrementally increase rates over the years to keep up with inflation and rising costs. And now that the ship is sinking, they want to rely on decades-old rules that, quote unquote, allow them to consolidate and standardize rates. And this is evidenced throughout the proposal with some of the things that they cite. It's a complete sham and a crock of mess to hide their poor management. They've done this in Pennsylvania, last year in the Lehigh Valley section of Pennsylvania, and the Pennsylvania state, they put a hold on their proposed rate increase up in Pennsylvania. I had a 0.6, but my neighbors actually took care of my 0.6. So there's a couple of things in the actual proposal that I want to point out that have not been pointed out yet. Just looking at the proposal itself, I have some tabs. On page 2 of the proposal, so it appears to me, and this is right inside page 2, that the whole purpose of the consolidation was to actually be able to raise the rates primarily on provinces. And again, as I pointed out, locality discrimination. The provinces, they already own provinces and another utility company. By bringing in Western Maryland, they felt that they could then invoke that clause that would allow them to do the rate standardization. It's like a preconceived strategy without our knowledge, again, as so many people have said. To me, it looks like a shady business strategy and practice. And the only way that they could significantly increase the rates was to merge with Allegheny County. I just need to go through and pull. I have everything is tabbed. So then skip that page. I'm just going through the proposal. I just need to pull up. Everything is tabbed. Going to Mr. Mendenhall's testimony. On page 13 of his testimony, there were 13 years that went by without phasing in incremental rate increases, and now rates are being increased all at one time. In his testimony, he states he must fairly continue to compensate employees, yet again, salaries are not being revealed. And then it says that the company is not able to meet its operating costs and earn a reasonable return on investment. This does not equal 108% revenue increase. And then on page 14, Mr. Mendenhall says that the present rates he mentions with good management. It's like self-flattering. It's not good management that over all of these years that there were no phased in rate increases. And now you're going to put all of these years of not managing the business on the backs of the provinces with the 255% rate increase. Going to page 15, under the question, are there any other reasons for this rate increase that you would like to emphasize? He says, yes, the transfer, in follow-up to the transfer of franchises approved in July 2021, again, that was optional, but again, it smells because it was the only way to be able to invoke the clause that allowed for the standardization of rates. It was not mandated that the 4 utilities be consolidated. And in the second part of that same question, he says the water and sewer disposal systems have a common ownership. It is common ownership, but it's not common usage by all the parties. So it is therefore not in public interest when it's not common usage. And then moving to page 16, and this was brought up by some of my peers, that what the proposed rates are 3 times what the neighboring jurisdictions are. And then I will bring out here that when you look at the documents that he's citing, one document is dated 2005, another document on page 16 is dated 2013. We're in 2022. No action was taken by MWS between 2005 and 2013 to adjust the rates according with inflation, according with the cost of the renovations and the capital improvements that they're citing is now the cause for this massive rate increase. That's poor management. And then they want to put this massive rate increase in place and leave the same management in place to manage those rates, to continue to manage the company. Continuing. Just looking for example on page 24, the Green Ridge system increase upgrade was $1.2 million, something that provinces has to pay for. Going to page 28, it mentions a settlement agreement on page 28 and 29. What is this settlement agreement? If provinces is paying 255%, we're paying for this settlement agreement. We want to see copies of it. That's only fair. We're now part of this settlement agreement. We're paying for the settlement agreement. We need to be able to see this settlement agreement. I definitely want to point out the addendums and Exhibit 1 to Mr. Mendenhall's testimony. Exhibit J as in John, B as in boy, M as in Mary -1, the NARUC resolution supporting consideration of regulatory policies deemed as best practices. This is critically important because what is highlighted here on this document is so important. MWS is cherry picking. They're absolutely cherry picking. In the section that is highlighted, there are four ideas presented. MWS is only putting forth one of the 4 ideas that are presented. Letter A is a rate case phase-in. They are not even offering or presenting the opportunity to phase in a rate increase. Letter B, innovative payment arrangements. That is not in this 292-page document. They only highlight letter C, allowing the consolidation of rates such as single tariff pricing of multi-divisional water utilities to spread capital costs over larger base customers. That's the only thing they're putting forth. And letter D, targeted customer assistance programs. My neighbors have said, particularly the seniors, that this rate increase will force them to move. My next door neighbor has posted in our Facebook group, him and his wife will be forced to move, as well as the letter that was read by one of my neighbors from another senior couple. But there are 4 things proposed right here in the document that they presented, but they cherry picked and only presented 1.
Ms. Matthews,
Yes,
are you finishing up?
yes, almost.
You're always welcome to mail anything in addition to the comments that you made this evening. And were you on when Office of People's Counsel indicated that you could contact them with questions? I don't know if you...
Okay, and they did the same thing with their second document, with the best practices document. They cherry picked the same thing and they're highlighted. You know, I will stop there. So I just have 3 more things tabbed, but you know, it's just mismanagement and they're putting it on the backs of the provinces. Their own exhibits are dated 2005 and 2013. This is 2022. This did not have to get to this point. And my suggestion is take provinces out of it. Provinces does not need to be part of this rate increase, period. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sharing my screen with the address of where written comments can be sent. While I'm doing that, if there's anyone who didn't have a chance to speak, please unmute yourself and state your name and do so.
Just a quick thing. I think you can still submit stuff from the at the webs too, right?
Public comments can be made electronically on the website. Yes.
Okay.
Right. This is just if you are unable to, for whatever reason, submit them electronically. You can always still send them by first class mail.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Yes, state your name, please.
Anthony Knight.
Okay,
I spoke
go ahead.
earlier. It seems to me that based on the comments that I've heard my wonderful neighbors repeatedly say over and over again, that there's a large transparency problem here with the justification for the rate increase. It's buried in a lot of technical jargon, and the justifications for it are hidden behind layers of obfuscation that are preventing people like myself and Jennifer to understand the basis. Like, you know, you say you're losing money. Okay, well, show us everything. Show us your books. I mean, we're paying you to manage our water supply. You're saying that you're losing money because you have to pay people a reasonable salary, and you want to make sure that you're able to access capital investment. You know, justify to me why 10% is reasonable. Justify to me what your total salary expenditure is. I understand there's privacy concerns around not wanting to expose a particular person's salary, and I understand that. But you know, maybe in aggregate we can see those numbers. The transparency issue is really, really critical to understand why we might need to sort of foot any kind of rate increase. Beyond that, another serious issue here is notice. Really, there should be a standard procedure that the Maryland Public Service Commission lays out for notifying that utilities have to follow for notifying people, and something like a pink sheet of paper that says rate increase at the top, and then list the details in it below that's included with your bill. Something like that. That's really obvious and standardized that people will recognize when they see it would be a means of them communicating that. It does not feel to me at all that they made a good faith effort to communicate this rate increase any more beyond, the statutory minimum. And if they can't even, I guess, meet that minimum amount of effort to be able to tell people, like, if the rate increase is really justified, they shouldn't have a problem being able to tell people that, like, look, you know, we want to provide you water service, but we can't do it at a loss. This is what's going on. They should have no problem being forthright with that, and that's not what's happening here. And to me, that makes it feel like any rate increase at all really needs to be looked at with skepticism. And I hope that you take our comments about these things into consideration when you're making your decision as to what the next move has to be. And I hope that you're able to, if there's some rate increase that you feel is justified based on the expert testimony that was given by the People's Council, that you also take into consideration that without further transparency efforts from Maryland Water Service, the residents are not going to take that very lightly. So that kind of concludes my additional statements.
Thank you. Is there anyone who hasn't been heard this evening who'd like to be heard? Okay. Again, I wanted to thank everyone who came out this evening and took their time to state their comments. It is an important part of the process, and we do appreciate it. At this point, we are adjourned. Thank you again.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We can go off the record.
Off the record, Your Honor.